All right, let's dive into one of the most fascinating and often misunderstood concepts in Scripture, Ya:jūj and Maġūj. Now, I want you to forget everything you think you know about apocalyptic armies or mythical tribes. The framework we're exploring today proposes something completely different, that this isn't a who, but a what. It's a recurring political mechanism, a way of making decisions as a group that has popped up all through history and you could argue is running the show right now. Okay, so let's really unpack this. The central idea here is that Ya:jūj Maġūj is a system. Think of it like an operating system for how we govern ourselves, and it has some very specific features. First off, it absolutely thrives on binary thinking, forcing everything into an us versus them or a left versus right box. Second, it starts to value procedure way more than truth. The how a decision is made becomes more important than the what or the why. Third, and this is huge, its decisions are made with zero consideration for afterlife accountability. And finally, it creates these massive, often chaotic results because it's all based on institutionalized speed and public spectacle. Just let that sink in for a sec.
This is where it gets really interesting. The scripture says they surge from every elevation. Now, the classic image is, of course, armies just pouring over the hills. But this framework sees it totally differently. Instead of a physical surge, think of a systemic one. It's the viral spread of ideologies, of political talking points, of media narratives that just amplify division. It's a surge of chaotic thinking that spreads from every elevation, every platform, every institution, every cable news channel. And it's all built on that same binary, us versus them logic.
So, how does the Qur'an actually show us this operating system? What's so fascinating is, it's not like you'll find a chapter titled The Story of Ya:jūj and Maġūj. Instead, it reveals the pattern, the structure, through these recurring examples of judicial and moral failure. It's like finding clues scattered throughout the text. Let's look at a couple of key instances. First up, the dispute over who gets custody of Maryam. So how do they solve it? They cast lots. It's a procedure, right? A mechanism to just get a result and move on. But our source points to this as a perfect example of the system in action. The system is satisfied because a procedural box was ticked. But the question of who is actually the most worthy, the most moral choice, that gets ignored. The method itself takes the place of moral truth. The second example is the story of Prophet Dawud's hasty judgment. He hears one side of a story and bam, driven by his gut, he issues a verdict. Only later does he realize it was a test. Now, the key point here isn't just that he made a personal mistake. It's that his action is a blueprint for a systemic failure, a system where rushing to judgment becomes the default setting, the standard operating procedure in how we govern. So when these patterns of just following procedure and rushing to judgment really take hold, something fundamental changes. This is what the framework calls the invasion of the sacred by the political. This verse, where the litigants literally climb over the wall into Dawud's private prayer chamber, it's read as this deeply symbolic moment. This isn't just about trespassing. It's the moment that worldly politics, with all its urgency, its demands, its noise, breaches the sacred space of quiet deliberation and God consciousness. And from this point on, decision-making gets cut off from any thought of the hereafter. The Ya:jūj Maġūj system is officially born. Now, a system like this doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's built on specific, repeated errors. We can actually look at two major prophetic figures as case studies for how this drift from the sacred to the political happens. And it really boils down to two key mistakes: haste and spectacle. This slide just lays it out so clearly. We see two main ways the system takes root. With Dawud, the error is judgment getting corrupted by his personal inclination, his hawā, which leads to a politics based on bias. Then with his son, Suleiman, the temptation is a bit different. It's turning righteous leadership into this grand spectacle of power, what the framework calls rule by display. You see? Together, these two mistakes form the blueprint for how sacred authority can slowly degrade into worldly politics. So, if this is a system that just keeps repeating itself throughout history, how do we spot it? How do we recognize it in our own time? Well, this framework suggests we can actually track it by watching how four key sacred concepts get twisted and corrupted. And here it is. Think of this as the diagnostic checklist. When you see sacred trust being replaced by mere procedure, when you see judgment being rushed and driven by bias, when you see rule become obsessed with its own glory and spectacle, and when all of this combines to create massive disorder through those binary us versus them surges, that's the signature. When those four distortions all line up, the system of Ya:jūj Maġūj is fully active.
Okay, so if the Quran encodes the problem with such incredible precision, does it also encode the solution? According to this framework, it absolutely does. And the master switch, the kill code for this entire system, is located in one single incredibly powerful verse.
Now, this isn't just being presented as some nice moral advice. This is being presented as a set of precise, almost technical operations that can directly dismantle the Yaģūj-Maģūj system right at its root. Let's break down these 4 commands. First, the call. You have to orient yourself to the one singular call of truth, not all the noise from the different partisan camps. Second, be upright. That means achieving personal integrity, getting your own house in order before you even think about judging the world. Third, and this is the absolute core of it all, do not follow their desires. Consciously refuse to play the game. Exit the politics of preference and bias entirely. And finally, judge with justice. Commit to restoring true balance no matter what the procedure says. This slide just illustrates it perfectly. Look at how the cure is an exact mirror of the disease. That lazy proceduralism of casting lots, it's directly countered by the command to judge with justice. The hasty verdict, countered by the command to be upright and deliberate. The invasion of politics into sacred space is fixed by re-anchoring everything to the divine call. And that chaotic binary surge from everywhere, it's neutralized by that simple, powerful command. Do not follow their desires. It's a perfect counter system. So here it is, the crucial takeaway. Yaʻjūj and Maʻjūj isn't some monster at the gates. It's a logic loop. It's an operating system running inside our institutions, our media, and yeah, even inside our own minds. It's that constant choice to optimize for the quick win, the slick optics, or the fast decision, while completely ignoring the deeper, eternal weight of our actions. The source material concludes that you don't defeat the system by fighting it head-on. You defeat it by making it irrelevant, by choosing consciously to run a different operating system. So the question it leaves us with is, what code are you writing?